Actually, for your information, that's a short cut of the film. The sound quality didn't seem that great on that. I haven't seen it for a while. But there's a longer version which is worth seeing because the story, there's a narrative there. There's a beginning, a middle and an end. You see how vile the space was under the standard system of traffic control, and then someone's got their hands up. What do you want to say? You can't hear me? Am I talking too soft? That's better. I'm closer to the mic now. You can hear me now. Okay. There's a 14-minute version, so it's about twice as long as that one. I mean, if you put Poynton, P-O-Y-N-T-O-N, you've seen how it's spelled, Poynton, into Google, or Poynton Regenerated is the name of the film. It's worth seeing. It's worth seeing the longer version because it tells the story in slightly more detail. Anyway, that's an example of turning the tables, really, on 80 years of antisocial traffic engineering. I hate most traffic engineering. I just think it's diabolical, the way it forces us into competition with each other when we could be cooperating with each other. I don't like hearing about segregated cycle lanes. I believe in integration. I believe that all modes, to use that jargon word, which basically means all forms of getting about, all modes, cycling, walking, pedestrian, driving, they can all coexist in peace if only roads were designed for equality in a social context, instead of designed for traffic engineers to make fortunes at our expense. We all suffer hugely. I mean, how many road deaths and injuries are there every year? There's still 25,000 every year. Many of those, and that's not all deaths, obviously, but there are about 22,000 deaths, or 22.5, injuries, serious injuries that lead to a lifetime of disability often, a lifetime on life support, and then 2,500 killed. And how many children aren't allowed out on the roads or by themselves anymore because it's too dangerous? The reason roads are dangerous is not because drivers are maniacs, it's because roads are designed for danger. The system out there, I hear Joe there talking about infrastructure, 80 million he's got for infrastructure improvements. What does he mean by infrastructure improvements? More money spent on bus lanes, more segregation? What they need to do is do what is happening here. Design for equality. I hear David speaking. I mean, he came up with some quite good stuff towards the end, but it's obvious where the money needs spending on this kind of design. We were looking, when we were waiting for you to get set up earlier, you just look down through one of those windows onto the street. I mean, every town you go into, you see absurd queuing, dead red time, our own individual decision-making capacity, our own responsibility negated by absent regulators. Who's the better judge of when to go, or indeed how fast or slow to go? You and me at the time and the place, or lights and limits fixed by absent regulators? I mean, it just makes nonsense. And it costs a fortune. I hear on the news the whole time, we've got to, we're facing these terrible welfare cuts, 3 billion cuts in the army, the armed forces, 12 billion or 18 billion welfare cuts. Well, I've calculated, I wrote a little paper for the IEA, the Institute of Economic Affairs, about 4 years ago, saying that, I didn't actually put a figure on it, but implying that that annual savings from traffic system reform are something like 50 billion. That's a year. So forget the welfare cuts. You don't need the welfare cuts if you address where the real savings could take place that would benefit everybody. They're always talking about unkind cuts. What's the phrase they use? What is it? Painful cuts, yeah. And I think, to me, that's a painful reminder that government and local authorities and transport consultants, everyone's missing a fantastic opportunity here to design roads for just being nice, so we can be nice to each other. Imagine jumping a cash point queue. You'd cause a riot. But on the roads, we accept that sort of antisocial behaviour without question. I was saying, you're looking out of the window down there at the junction. These streams of traffic, or stream of traffic trying to get out from that side road there, into here. I was waiting 3-4 minutes solid, and then this one little filter lane to turn right there, coming from that direction. You couldn't see the end of the queue, it just disappeared into the distance. And there's loads of dead red tide, there's loads of dead road capacity when nothing's happening on the junction. So that's where I want you to put your thinking cap. And you know, the potential is absolutely huge. Now, it's not just street design, streets that need to be redesigned and infrastructure that needs to be totally rethought, but there needs to be a culture change. You know, we've all grown up thinking that we've got to teach our children road safety drill. Well, if roads were designed for genuine equality, genuine safety, the hierarchy that David talks about there, which he's identified, that happens automatically when traffic lights are out of action. I first experienced this and had my eureka moment in Cambridge, where I lived. It's getting on 15 years ago now, actually. I arrived, I won't go on, how long have I had? Because you only want 3.
You've had on too much time. 1 minute.
I've got 1 minute, I've got to wind up. But we'll have a chance to say more. Okay, well, I'll stop there then, if you like, because there's so much more to say, but I've basically said the main thing. So it's now one of the other.
Can we thank Martin for